What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. CNBC just came out with a report that says 70% of Americans think a recession is coming, and this is what they're doing to prepare for it. Now, I have not looked at, and I try to reserve a judgment or reserve reading the entirety of an article to determine what people are doing and how it is that they're doing it so that I can give an authentic reaction to exactly what's happening in the economy, whether it be a video or whether it be an article. But this headline grabbed me, and the talking points were pretty interestingly enough for me to have a conversation about because I believe that a recession is coming, and I believe that 70% of Americans are right. And I'm curious as to what it is that they're doing in order to prepare for it. So let's deep dive into the article. It says experts are weighing the odds as to how likely a recession is and how fast it could come upon us. Most Americans, 70%, already believe an economic downturn is on its way. According to a new survey by Magnify Money, the online survey was conducted between June 10th and 14th and included 2,082 respondents. So, the sentiment amongst people in a general sense is that there is a recession on the way, and if it's not already here, then they are already experiencing it. One thing that I always tell people, especially during the Millionaire Morning Show live stream, is that before the 2008 recession was officially in flux and in play for everybody else, I was already going through it. Real talk. Like I was already experiencing the effects of not being able to find a job, being in an economic downturn personally, right? And I had already seen the wave coming when it came to housing. I didn't know it was going to be a housing crash, but I knew for me that everything was getting real. And for a lot of people that I was interacting with and that were friends of mine, they were suffering as a result also. And so I could see things based off of my own experiences. And I was like, wait a minute, the economy is not as great as I thought it was. And it was the first time that I had personally went through something like this. So it's pretty interesting to see people talk about this. A recession is defined as a significant economic decline that lasts more than a few months. Most people assume that a recession or are anticipating, and I'm not even talking about most people, I'm talking about most institutions, that a recession is going to last at least 18 months, which is a year and a half up to 3 years, okay? The biggest recession warning sign, which 88% respondents pointed to, is high inflation. So, inflation. What do we know about inflation? Obviously, it's the devaluing of how far your money goes or the devaluing of the dollar, right? The idea is that it's going to cost you more for goods and services because the value of your money goes less. It doesn't go as far as it used to. Respondents also reported seeing signs of an economic downturn in housing and rent prices, with 61%, rising interest rates, 56%, the stock market, 55%, declining consumer spending, 42%, and rising unemployment. The biggest indicator, in my personal opinion, of a possible recession is how people are spending their money. I pay attention on when I walk through these airports every single weekend to what's happening, what the vibes are, what are people doing, how are they moving, right? How many people are coming through this airport during this holiday season? And it seems significantly lower than it would normally be or was maybe even, you know, 6 months ago, to be honest with you. When we were first really coming out of the pandemic, and now that I see how people are moving in the summertime, which is generally the travel season, spring and summer, it's down. Very, very much down. And that's in real life. Now, when we pay attention to how people are spending their money, it seems like people are starting to clutch their pearls. Savings are going up inside of banking, similar to how it was, not how it was right before the pandemic or when the pandemic hit, because savings went absolutely bonkers. And that's when the stock market went down. But I think a lot of people are looking at their portfolio. They're looking at their 401k. Some people are being laid off and they starting to make adjustments and saying, wait a minute, I don't need this. I don't need that. I need to cut out consumer spending. I need to cut out subscriptions. I need to cut out traveling. I need to cut out this and that just so we can survive. We're not even talking about preserving income or taking advantage of what's going on in the market. We're talking about survival. Okay. Though some of those perceptions may lean on how people feel about the economy rather than hard numbers. While the U.S. economy still has bright spots, including a strong overall job market and raising wages, higher prices have raised Americans' feelings of financial insecurity, according to Matt Scholes, credit chief and analyst at LendingTree, which owns Magnify Money. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the big thing, all right? With inflation at 8.6% as last reported, and I think that the next report of inflation is going to be even worse. What we've seen with the jobs numbers is that unemployment remains low. It remains low. So it doesn't count the quality of the job. It just means people that are gainfully employed, right? And it remains at a historic low of 3.6%. And so you take that into consideration and you say, okay, well, how many jobs were added to the payroll? And you say 372,000, right? And then you got to go through government jobs, you got to go through private jobs and all that stuff, right? We know that despite home prices being high and the average consumer or the average family having to deal with rising rent prices that are incredible and people overpaying for homes and the supply of homes, we know that the Fed is going to continue to raise rates, which means that the price of money is going to go up and it's going to be much harder to borrow, or the dollar is not going to go as far. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, do it feel like you in a recession because your dollar just don't go as far, or is the real recession on the way? All right. Let's look at how people are preparing for this recession. New inflation data expected to be highly elevated. Forthcoming inflation data could further consumer feelings of concern. We expect that number to go higher. Okay. What people are doing to prepare for a recession. The biggest worry people cited about the looming recession is the inability to pay their bills, with 44% saying that. In order to prepare for a downturn, many are focused on keeping their spending in line. 62% of respondents says they are cutting back on spending, while 39% saying they're sticking to a budget. Those steps can be important even in the event of a job loss. The thing that I want people to understand is that saving your way or putting yourself in a position to be able to survive for 6 months does little or nothing, because you have to ask yourself, what is your lifestyle, right? If you start to pare down what it takes for you to be able to live and thrive, such as you should not necessarily have a car note, especially if you don't have multiple streams of income and you can't maintain that lifestyle. You should lower the cost of, your living. If you went out and got a mortgage, did you get a 30 or did you get a 15? And what is that payment based off of the interest rate, or how long you can be able to sustain that payment and your lifestyle and all of that other type of stuff? Did you buy more house than you needed? Even in that house, how much does it cost to heat it? What are the property taxes? A lot of people are always focused on how long they can survive before they can get to another paycheck if something was to happen, if they was to lose their jobs, instead of focusing on what your lifestyle is and how it is that you can be able to afford it without much effort. That way you can dedicate the majority of your resources into investing. That way you can grow your net worth and you don't have to worry or struggle as much if there was a recession in the first place. Reducing debt can have a significant effect. Of course, I just talked about that. A lot of people are just saying that, I'm cutting out spending and I'm cutting out subscriptions. I'm cutting out, all the extracurricular activity. But I don't think that that's the biggest problem, honestly. I genuinely believe that the biggest problem that people are experiencing is that their lifestyle cannot support what their current income is, and it was already out of whack in the first place. So when you see people making these adjustments, they often make drastic changes to the things that should have been in line in the first place that would allow them to be able to be a little bit more comfortable. But people are reactionary and they make adjustments according to their circumstances instead of being proactive and living a lifestyle the way that they're supposed to live it in the first place. But I'm curious as to what you guys think. Do you think that there's an incoming recession? And is it based off of talking points? Is it based off of news? Is it based off of people like me that's giving you insight into how you can move differently? Or do you think that things are going to be just fine, that the jobs report is more accurate and a reflection of what the economy is doing, and that inflation is just a temporary thing that's going to be solved by the Fed, and we'll be able to live accordingly? I'd like to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. comment, and then hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. And then last but not least, make sure you join the Patreon. I'm actually doing a Patreon meetup in New York. Every month I fly somewhere else where I can meet up with people in person and they can feel the vibes. We can talk, we can connect, we can network, we can talk business, we can talk relationships, whatever it is that y'all want to talk about, we talk about it in person. I'm going to be in New York this weekend for a Patreon exclusive meetup. That location is in the Patreon. We also doing Build a Business, where I'm using my money to help you to understand on how you can level up and add value to your life and what it takes to really be able to build a business. And then mastermind sessions, Patreon exclusives, all that stuff is popping off in the Patreon. So make sure y'all join that. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. And then if you need to get in touch with me personally, email me at Anton Daniels 413@gmail.com. We do Zoom calls, we do phone calls. I'm going to get you in line and I'm going to get you scheduled for a personal call. I love you. I appreciate y'all. But I need y'all to do me one more favor before we get up out of here. Make sure you tell your friends and family and share this. We don't want to be rich by ourselves. We are building a community of people that's going in the direction that you should be going in. Rock out with us, love us, appreciate us, and then I'm going to show you some love. I'm going to talk to you later. Peace.